Well, welcome to the 700 Club. A Glock, a ghost gun, a hunting knife, and a Nazi armband. That's what New York police found on two men suspected of plotting an attack on a synagogue. It's the latest in a shocking rise of anti-Semitism right here in America.
The FBI and Homeland Security point to an unprecedented number of potential threats, along with the rise in hate-filled rhetoric. Caitlin Burke reports on the need for a national strategy to fight this deadly trend.
The Jewish community warned to stay vigilant. In New York City, the arrest of two men in connection to online threats against synagogues coming only 2 weeks after the FBI warned New Jersey synagogues of a broad threat against them.
This was not an idle threat. This was a real threat.
The suspects in the New York City plot reportedly took to social media. 22-year-old Christopher Brown tweeting, quote, "Gonna ask a priest if I should become a husband or shoot up a synagogue and die." The next day he wrote, quote, "This time I'm really gonna do it." Brown and 22-year-old Matthew Marr were arrested in Penn Station Saturday morning.
Law enforcement officers recovered a Glock semi-automatic firearm, a ghost gun with an extended 30-round magazine and laser sights, a large hunting knife, a black ski mask, and a Nazi armband. A Nazi armband in New York City in 2022. Think about that for a moment.
America's top law enforcement agencies say, unfortunately, this is not an isolated incident.
We are working very, very closely with the FBI and our federal, state, local, tribal, territorial, campus law enforcement partners to address violence, an increasing level of violence born of ideologies of hate.
More than 60% of religiously motivated violence is tied to anti-Semitism, and experts are concerned a growing increase in anti-Semitic rhetoric could exacerbate the problem even more. Rhetoric like what we saw from rapper Kanye West, now known as Ye, who recently railed against the Jewish community on Twitter and in interviews, sparking this group to give the Nazi salute over banners hung over a California freeway, reading, "Honk if you know Kanye was right about the Jews."
I could say anti-Semitic things and Adidas can't drop me.
Adidas did drop him, along with all of his other sponsors. West later tried to repair the damage, saying he wanted, quote, "to give a sincere apology to the Jewish people."
This hate cannot be allowed to take hold and build and gain further ground. America must defeat the rising threat of domestic terrorism. It is real, it is here, and we must have a formidable approach to it.
Lawmakers are looking into some sort of national strategy to combat anti-Semitism, something both the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI have voiced support of. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
This is an absolute evil. I don't have any other words for it. This is evil. It is straight out of a pit. And to have this in America in 2022 really boggles the mind that this kind of thing would be practiced, would be preached, and then put into some kind of action that you're going to target a synagogue, and that's your choice in life. My choice, am I going to be a husband or am I going to target a synagogue? It's absolutely incredible. It doesn't have any other definition or explanation other than the ones the rabbis have given for generations. In every generation, there arises a Haman who tries to destroy the Jews. It's a spiritual force, it's a spiritual enemy, and we have to deal with it spiritually. At the same time, we have to take protections. Department of Homeland Security has given grants to synagogues to increase their security. But most of all, we need prayer in America. This thing has been unleashed right here in our own backyard, and it shouldn't belong here at all. Let's cast it out, and cast it out with prayer. In other news, the president's deal to keep the railroads running has gone off track. Ephraim Graham has that story and more from the CBN newsroom. Ephraim?
Gordon, the threat of a nationwide railroad strike is back. One of the largest railroad workers' unions rejected a White House brokered deal Monday, citing lack of schedules and paid sick time. A prolonged strike could have a crippling impact on the economy. About 40% of U.S. freight is moved by rail, including coal, construction materials, automotive parts, and raw goods used in manufacturing. A shutdown could result in shortages across the board and cost the economy about $2 billion a day. The railroads and unions have until December 9th to reach an agreement before workers could walk off their jobs. The flu season is off to a deadly start. The Centers for Disease Control already reporting more than 2,100 deaths, including 7 children. More than 38,000 people have been hospitalized. CBN medical reporter Lori Johnson shows you how you can protect yourself and your family.
14 mostly southern and eastern states are currently experiencing the highest level of flu activity, with many others not far behind. The majority are influenza A, a highly aggressive strain. Hospitalization rates this early in the season haven't been this high since the 2009 swine flu pandemic.
Here we are again, thinking about and planning for a surge that will be really hard for us to absorb over the next couple of months.
And it's not just the flu. Other viruses like RSV, COVID, and the common cold are also spreading nationwide. Doctors say the best overall protection includes vaccination when possible and strengthening the body's immune system.
70 to 80% of your immune system is actually physically located in your gut.
A strong immune system can be traced to higher levels of good bacteria in the intestines, as these organisms can recognize and act when harmful viruses enter the body.
And that results in the release of something called interferons. And interferons are called interferons because they interfere with viruses. And then the interferons are the beginning of this immune cascade, this whole series of events of killer T cells and antibodies that all rush in to protect us from the virus.
Good bacteria are tiny living organisms found in certain beverages and foods like kimchi and yogurt, as well as some probiotic supplements. Once these good bacteria are ingested, it's important to feed them so they grow and multiply. Their favorite food? Fiber.
30 different plant foods per week was a sort of magic number for a healthy microbiome. And so you get credit for fruits, vegetables, nuts, grains, seeds, spices, herbs, all of it. I can get 10 different plant foods into a bowl of oatmeal.
And while fiber strengthens the gut, certain medications can harm it. So talk to your doctor about whether you really need certain antibiotics or antacids.
Stomach acid is one of your body's main defenses against viruses. When you ingest a virus, which is a common way for people to get infected, if you have intact levels of stomach acid, it unravels that viral protein and renders it inactive.
So while we may not be able to avoid this season's viruses, we can take action to prevent being derailed by them. Gordon.
All right, so what can we do to begin building up our immune systems?
Well, the Building a Better Gut is a great place to start, and we have a wonderful booklet called Build a Better Gut that has a lot of this information. It's really important, and all you have to do is go to cbn.com or call our phone number, and has a lot of that information. Also, vaccines. Doctors say it's not too late to get a vaccine. They're only offered for COVID and for the flu, so not for RSV or the common cold. And believe it or not, Gordon, a strong, healthy gut helps the efficacy of vaccines.
All right, well, let's talk about antibiotics. Someone very near and dear to me doesn't want to take antibiotics because it might affect his gut and wipe out all the good bacteria. So what should people do if their doctor says they need to take an antibiotic.
I know who you're talking about, someone very near and dear to me too, and our viewers as well. And so, yeah, that's true. Antibiotics kill bacteria, not just the bad ones, but the good ones as well. But we need to remember that antibiotics are a gift from God. Antibiotics save lives, but they're often overprescribed. So do talk to your doctor about whether you really need one. And if your doctor says, yes, you have to have it, then take it. And here's what you do is you also take a probiotic supplement at the same time. So, for example, if you have to take an antibiotic twice a day, say 8 a.m., 8 p.m., try to take your probiotic in between, like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and make sure to eat a lot of those probiotic or prebiotic foods, the fiber, to feed those good bacteria. And then when you're finished with your antibiotic, continue taking that probiotic and eating those wonderful prebiotic foods, the fiber, for at least a month afterwards.
All right, well, we're getting ready to have Thanksgiving, and I know in my home the pie making actually starts today. What do pies do to your gut biome?
Okay, I don't want to be like the killjoy, you know, the fun police, but really sugar is an enemy of the gut. So try to stay away from too much sugar, and that includes artificial sweeteners as too. In fact, some people say that artificial sweeteners, the pink, the blue, the yellow ones, are actually worse than regular sugar. So try to go easy on the sugar. That's hard to do over Thanksgiving weekend, but really go heavy on those wonderful vegetables, and maybe double up on the green bean casserole, Gordon.
Can I take a probiotic supplement to make up for it?
to make up for it, it would absolutely help.
All right. Well, everyone I know that's gotten the flu, it's all because they have kids at school, and so the kids are getting it at school and bringing it home. Everybody's getting sick. So how should parents know when it's safe to send their children back to school?
Well, you know, there's a real tug of war going on right now between school nurses and parents, because parents are sending their kids back to school too soon. The way you know when it's safe to send your child back to school is if he or she has no fever for 24 hours without being medicated. So if you have to give your child Tylenol to get their fever down, they're not ready to go back to school. Usually it takes about a week for a child to recover from one of these respiratory viruses, and that's a real problem for parents these days, Gordon, for a number of reasons. Number one, a lot of parents work and they don't get paid if they have to stay home and take care of their child. And so we've got inflation and the holidays coming up. And a lot of parents are also really wanting their children to get back in the classroom and learn to make up for all the learning they lost from these COVID shutdowns. But here's the thing to remember. If too many kids are out with respiratory viruses, the schools will shut down again. And we've seen that already this season.
All right. Well, Lori, thanks for the insight. I'll be having some yogurt with my pumpkin pie.
Yum. Sounds great.